Hey, everybody, it's Ken Tucker here with Changescape Web. Today I'm joined by Jen, Ian, Dan, and Paul. And we're all really excited to have with us today John Jantsch. We've worked with John for a long time. And John, I think you're the only guest now that's made our second appearance. So
Thanks.
thank you very
All
much
right.
for that. John is the founder of Duct Tape Marketing and author of the upcoming book, The Ultimate Marketing Machine: 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth, from HarperCollins Leadership. And that's going to be out September 21st of this year. So let's just jump right into it. John, this book looks a little different than maybe some of the other books that you've put together before. What new ground does the Ultimate Marketing Machine cover that's different from other marketing books out there?
Sure. So this is actually my 7th book, and I do need to correct you, Ken. I make this mistake sometimes too, but it's the Ultimate Marketing Engine, not machine.
Okay, machine. All right,
which I've been guilty of doing too. So it's easy to do, but it's
the
ultimate.
Apologize for that.
No worries. The Ultimate Marketing Engine, and it is my 7th book, but it's really the first straight up kind of marketing strategy book that I've written in about 10 years. So in a lot of ways, what I've added to this book is, I'm still practicing marketing every single day. So it's kind of my evolution of some of the things that I wrote about in duct tape marketing, and certainly in the referral engine as well. Probably the number one innovation that I'm really think from feedback is changing how some people think about marketing is something that I call the customer success track, which we can go into in more detail, but it's a significant part of the what kind of big idea, if you will, of this book.
Yeah. It's been really interesting to watch the way business has been morphing lately, and we're going to get more into this as we talk throughout this session. But it seems to me like the idea of subscriptions and memberships and all of that has just become hugely important. And so I'm really excited to learn more about your book and how you came up with what you've got, and certainly find out more about the 5 steps.
You bet. Well, I will say that I signed the contract for this book actually March 15th, 2020. I'll just give you guys a moment to think about what you were doing March 15th, 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The world was coming to an end, or at least our little portions of the world, we felt that way. And so, it really, I was kind of like, God, what am I going to write? I mean, right now, what everybody's going through, what I'm going through is certainly going to dictate this, but I certainly didn't want to write, how to market in a time of COVID. Nobody wants that book, particularly anymore.
Right.
And so what came to be the big idea from this book really is what I actually saw from some of my customers. I mean, there were some people that, of course, were in the wrong place, the wrong industry, the wrong time. I mean, they really got wiped out even by COVID. But I also saw a lot of businesses that not only survived, they actually thrived, and it really shone a very bright light to me on something that's always been true. A lot of businesses grow and scale just because they're in a market that happens to be growing and scaling at the time. But in tough times, businesses that really survive and thrive are ones that are meaningful in some way, some important way to their customers. I saw a lot of customers reaching out to some of my clients and saying, hey, what can we do? We're going to be here with you. We know you've got to make hard decisions right now. How can we support you? And I think that again, has always been relevant. It's always been true. But I do think that the struggles that a lot of us went through last year just highlighted that for me. And so this idea of customers, or treating customers as members, came about not as membership as a business model is great, but it was really more this idea that how can we look at our customers, rather through the lens of a transaction, and think more in terms of the idea of a transformation. How can we look at everybody who becomes a customer and look at where they are today, and try to take them to where they want to be, as opposed to just try to sell them what it is that we sell.
Yeah. All right.
I I made you speechless, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, you did have you were just talking about that customer success track, and I was wondering, why don't you unpack that a little bit?
Sure.
Just, how might a business apply the customer success track and use it on a regular basis?
Well, so as you guys talked about in the beginning, I've worked with many of you. You've worked with me for many years, and the customer success track really came about not as something that I planned out and said, okay, I'm going to break customer stages into, it really came about sort of organically. I mean, I've had customers that I've worked with for 10, 12, 15 years now. And as you continue to work with somebody under the umbrella of marketing, I mean, they mature, the work that you do for them in a way matures. And so it really seemed to me that there were kind of common breaks or stages, as I called them. And so this customer success track, or the idea of creating a customer success track for marketing, at least in this case, was that to really kind of understand what stage most of our customers come to us in, or prospects come to us in. What are the characteristics of those stages? I mean, how can we actually identify somebody in that stage? What are the challenges we know, or we've learned at least, that they're facing because they're in that stage? And then finally, what's the promise if we could actually move them out of that stage to the next stage? And each stage then we have the ability, I think, if our goal is to move a client to the next stage, we have the ability to create a list of milestones in each of those stages and basically say yes or no, have they accomplished that, or have we accomplished that for them? If the answer is yes, great, check that off. If the answer is no, what tasks can we assign then to that milestone? So it almost becomes a bit of a guaranteed way to move people through the stages, do the appropriate work in each stage. So they come to you in a foundational stage. We get them out of the foundational stage and move them to level up. Then we move them to, ultimately to scale. And that's the idea of actually going into the engagement with the goal of taking them from where they are to where we believe they want to be. And I think that this thinking not only becomes a roadmap for what we sell, but I think it ultimately can color the mission of the work that you do. It certainly can color the processes and the training, and who you even hire, and your sales messaging around this idea of taking people on a guided journey, as opposed to just simply creating a transaction.
And it's interesting because I've heard you mention this before, that sometimes, like us as marketing consultants, as a result of the customer success track, actually become business consultants a little bit more than we ever have, which is interesting too. We used to think, oh gosh, that's another lane or something like that. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think now more than ever, it seems like we're getting pulled in that direction anyway, whether we like it or not, to be that.
Yeah, this customer success track is really, we can call it marketing strategy, to develop this, but it's really overarching strategy for the business. And I think today, especially working with smaller, mid-sized businesses, if you call yourself a consultant or a strategist, I mean, you're going to get into every area of the business, because there are so many areas that impact marketing that maybe we don't think of as marketing, but we probably should. And I think that's really the idea. Now, this customer success track, I mean, ultimately what I want to try to do with this, or my goal of publishing it in this way is, if you're a marketer out there, I mean, this is going to make a ton of sense to you because I've developed it completely. But my contention is that every business, I don't care what industry you're in, can develop this for their customers. And so that's my real long-term goal for this, is that a lot of businesses start thinking this way, not just marketers.
Hey, John, sorry, my audio glitched earlier. I had to reset it. Gotta love technology. But you talk about this idea in your book about customers as members. What exactly do you mean by that?
Sure. So again, there is probably some confusion with that term. It just made the most sense to me to use that, but I'm not talking about, first off, a subscription or a membership or even a community. Those are all great models. They all might make sense for certain businesses, but what I'm talking about more is the relationship. In a customer relationship, things are quite often very transactional. Whereas in a membership, if somebody joins something, they join an organization because they actually want to invest in themselves or invest in that organization. If they stay in that organization and maybe even refer, as a customer, we may refer folks, but as a member, we're going to evangelize that organization. And I just think that it's a way of looking at the relationship, that you treat everybody, every customer, every client that comes into your organization, if you treat them as though they were a member looking for a transformation, I think it's just going to color everything that you do. It's going to color ultimately it's going to color the products and services that I think you offer to them as well.
John, from the marketing execution implementation side of things, can you walk us through how someone would go about getting started developing a customer success
Sure.
track? Walk us through the first couple of days or so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the more you know your customers, the longer you've been doing this. Some of it might just be intuitive because you've experienced. You maybe haven't thought about stages and things, but you probably have a fairly good handle. But what I tell people quite often on this is, in my experience, most of the customers that you're serving, especially your ideal customers, and we'll get into that a little bit about narrowing maybe, but particularly your ideal customers, most of them come to you with a certain problem in a certain stage, and you get really good at serving that problem, that stage. You guys are all marketers. You know that most of the businesses that really turn to a marketing consultant who want a marketing system realize that they've got a lot of moving parts that aren't moving together. Their websites not doing much for them if they have one that full function. They really don't have that much content. Their search engine optimization is something that they abdicated to somebody and have no idea what they're getting for it. And that's really common stage. I mean, that's the stage that I've defined as foundational stage. And you also know that you can't move people. You can't start generating leads or sales for them unless you clean some of that up. And so one of the first things probably to do is to really define the stage that most of your customers come to you, most of your ideal customers come to you today. And from there, you can start then elevating, how could we take them to the next level, whatever that is in your business. Now, I will also say that some businesses are somewhat transactional. There's no question, if you're a professional service provider selling B2B, this probably makes a ton of sense right off the bat. But let's say you're a remodeling contractor and you're thinking, well, people come to me because they want their kitchen remodeled. I still believe that you can develop the stages for even how a project is going to go, and you could communicate that customer success track with the idea of the ultimate experience as well as the end product being developed. So I think it's just a matter of taking your individual business, looking at what is very common, what are the common characteristics of your ideal customers, and then really start the hard work of figuring out how could you actually do what you do for them today in a much more advanced way.
Hey, John, one of the questions that comes to mind is that in your book, you talk about how concepts like the marketing funnel and the customer journey have limitations. How so?
Well, the marketing funnel I've been beating up on for years, because unfortunately, while there's an aspect of a funnel generating clients, most people, that's where they stop thinking about it. It's like, the person said they'd buy. That was the ultimate goal. And really, to me, the ultimate goal is to have 100% of your clients so thrilled that they're referring you. And so the customer journey, and even a tool you guys have worked with quite a bit, the marketing hourglass, in some ways, has its limitations, even though it focuses a great deal of emphasis on what happens after the sale. I mean, the best source of lead generation is a happy customer. And so if you put that focus on what happens when they buy, what happens, that makes them want to repeat, what happens, or how can you stimulate referrals, I think I think we're miles ahead in that thinking. And of course, the bookshelves today are littered with lots of books about, never lose a customer again, and talk triggers, and hug your customers, and some of those kinds of books that are very focused on the idea of the customer experience. However, I think that in some ways that thinking can be limited because it's still, I mean, I map it out greatly. You know, our customer journey, the marketing hourglass, appears in the Ultimate Marketing Engine. So I'm not suggesting that we go away from that, but I'm suggesting that that's still limited because in the end, we are still trying to guide the customer to do what we want them to do, which is obviously the big goal of marketing, marketing a business. But what I'm going to suggest is that the customer success track becomes inserted inside of, when somebody becomes a customer, becomes more of your ability to map the goals of taking that customer and creating a transformation in their life or in their business. And I just think that that puts a different focus on how we think about growing our own businesses.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a good lead into my question, because you talk about, the customer experience and guiding them through the process. And a common mistake that I see all the time is, when you first start talking with a business about who are your ideal customers, they say anybody who has a checkbook,
Right.
or anything like that. But really, that's absolutely further from the truth. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth than that. So, in your book, you talk about really maybe even narrowing it to the top 20 clients that you have. Can you talk a little bit more about why you recommend that?
It's funny. I was talking to a bank recently that was just kind of trying to work on their marketing, and it was really just a casual conversation. I said, "So who's your ideal customer? People who don't have money, or people who have money, and people who need money?" And I was like, "Okay, we're gonna have to work on that a little bit." But that is very, very common, the way that people see it. I mean, if I'm an accountant, anybody who needs to get their taxes done is a prospect. But we all have experienced that customer that's really not a good fit. Yeah, they needed their taxes done, but they don't keep their, they bring us a shoebox full of a bunch of receipts and have no idea what it is. And, I mean, they're not an ideal customer necessarily. But I think that as cliche as it might sound, I mean, the whole 80-20 thing is real, or at least in my experience. Most businesses I've worked with, 80% of their profits come from their top 20%, not necessarily 20 as a number, but their top 20% of their customers. And the reason for that quite often is because that was the right customer. They had the right problem. They actually matched up with the value that you can bring. I mean, you guys, again, as marketing consultants, you've probably experienced customers that come to you, or prospects that come to you. They have a budget, they have money, they have a great need, they want to build an integrated system. You probably look at them and go, "Oh, we can help them, and we can help them fast," because they have the right problem. And I think that is true for most businesses if they go through and they look at their ideal customers, because not everybody is ideal. You can't actually make every customer successful. So it's important that you choose that ideal customer, the one that's really suited or matched for exactly what you're trying to do. The other thing that I've experienced, and why I say to really focus on that top 20, is because the opportunity cost of chasing all of this other business that really is maybe not that profitable, is not the right fit, is that it stops you from looking at that top 20% and asking yourself, what percentage of them would do 10 times more business with me if I actually had the right focus? What percentage or smaller percentage of that group would do 100 times more business with me if I made that the total focus of my business? And I think that mindset, or that point of view about narrowing your focus, actually allows you to scale your business with your best customers, as opposed to going out and chasing more customers.
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of home services, home remodeling type contractors, and they always have 3 or 4 core services that they want to offer.
Yeah.
And it's but it's like, where do I invest my marketing strategy and all that kind of stuff? And it's like, you really should just pick the one that you're the strongest in, that you have the best reputation, that you have your best customers in, and double down on that. Then try to siphon off and water down your marketing messaging and your clarity of what you're offering and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. I'm really interested to dive more into that as I learn more about what all you've put together.
Hey, John, something I found interesting is that this is a book about marketing, but you don't talk about ways to create better websites or generate more leads until near the end of the book. What was the idea behind that?
Yeah, and I do actually acknowledge that here you're in chapter 8 or wherever it is. I'm finally going to talk about marketing. So I'm sure there will be some negative reviews at some point. So I thought this was a marketing book. It's when I wrote the referral engine, I spent the first half of the book saying, the way to get more referrals is to be more referable. And of course, a lot of people were coming there to get hacks and things that they could do to trick people into referring them. And it really, you guys, have heard me say this a million times. This is a strategy before tactics book. And what I really wanted to drive home was that this idea of, creating the customer success track, really narrowing your focus to your top 20%, and then focusing on telling them, or at least communicating the story that they're telling themselves, that messaging component, that all has to be done before we start thinking about how do we use our website. All the work that we did in the first 6 chapters is now prepared us to actually create a website that is going to lead the customer journey, that is going to tell the right story, that's going to attract the more of that top 20% of your clientele. And so that's really why I waited to that point, because in the end, this is a strategy book. Certainly, I had to reveal the common tactics that many, many businesses use today, and give you, steps 4 and 5 are just loaded, in my opinion, with lots of things that you can do to actually then stimulate and scale your business. But I really wanted to wait because I wanted to spend as much possible time and energy and emphasis around this idea of strategy.
Yeah, and that's, something you alluded to in there, and I think it's forgotten a lot of times, is you have to have that foundation in place.
That's right.
You have to have that first.
Yep. Yeah. And I know, a lot of people don't want to hear that. They're like, give me the 23 things that I can do today, because I don't want to do the 23 things you told me to do yesterday.
Yep.
There's a point, I think, in this book, I believe, where you say, people don't want what you sell, which I know the first time someone reads that, you and I both know they're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean people don't want what I sell? Like, isn't that the whole point of marketing? Isn't this the ultimate marketing engine? Like, what are you getting at there? So why don't you speak a little bit to that?
Oh, you bet.
What you're getting at there.
You bet. So you guys are all marketing strategists for the most part, and I guarantee you not a single one of your clients has ever woken up and said, I think I'm going to go get some marketing strategy today. Not a single one of them, I guarantee you, right? But they do wake up and they say, how come every time the phone rings, they're asking for a lower price? Or how come my competitors are showing up in the map pack or the 3-pack and I'm not? Those are the things that are keeping them awake at night. And so what I to finish that statement, nobody wants what we sell. They want their problems solved, period. And the point of that is that if all we're communicating is, here's our solution, and they haven't connected our solution to the problem they're trying to solve, then we have a much harder job. But if we first communicate, I get you. I know what you're struggling with. A lot of our clients, people that you guys attract, they're struggling with control of what's going on. They're struggling with confidence of what to do next. They're struggling with clarity of what their message should be. And if we can help them understand that that's their biggest challenge, then we can start talking about, oh, by the way, marketing strategy of a website that communicates, how you're different. Those are the solutions now that are going to solve those biggest problems that you have. And our clients, our prospects get to define the problem they're trying to solve in many cases. People make purchases of luxury goods and things, for example, not because they don't have a car that runs, but they do it because of what it means, for them, what they get, out of making that purchase. And so I think you could take this idea to really any type of product or service. We have to connect with that. And obviously, many people are out there expressing what the problem they're getting solved by our businesses, and yet we're not paying attention. We're still talking about features and benefits and how long we've been in business and how big we are, as opposed to really focusing on what they care about, which are usually the little things that they're not getting in their everyday life.
John, the notion of storytelling in marketing is, pretty standard advice in the last few years, but you introduced the idea of narrative versus storytelling. So can you explain that?
Sure. Yeah. So maybe I need to define the distinction for folks, but you're right. Storytelling is like, it's the hot thing, even though it's been around for 100 years. But you'd think every marketer in the last 5 years is who created the idea of storytelling. And there's no question that telling stories, showing your softer side, letting people know who you really are. There's tons of benefits from that. But again, a lot of what people do in storytelling is they tell their story, and they tell it in a very linear fashion that hopefully moves somebody along. And the difference between narrative is it's how the story is broken up and told. We've all seen examples of the movie where it starts close shot on a car chase going through a city. There's no subtext, nothing. It's just like, this is happening all of a sudden. And then, the car wrecks and crashes into something. Cut away to the main character in 7th grade. And it's, it's like, wait, that was the ending of the story that sucked me in, to the story. And now you're going to fill in the blanks. Now you're going to develop the character. Now I'm going to understand, what's going to lead to that. And I think that's the idea behind narrative, is that it gives people the ability to tell the story, to experience the story in a way that's more dramatic than simply just going through. First, we started the business 10 years ago, and then we, which so many people do. There's just no drama in that. There's no impact in that. And nobody, it's very hard to suck somebody into that story. And so narrative really does start with a lot more of, or the concept of narrative starts with the idea of cutting the story up in a way that's going to allow you to give the most dramatic punch, right in the beginning. Because that's what people are suffering from, the problem they're trying to solve, the emotions around what they're trying to do, that's what we have to connect with. And I think that the idea of narrative storytelling gives us that ability.
That's very interesting. It sounds like a Tarantino film. So we're supposed to embrace our inner Tarantino, I guess, right?
That's right.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's in a good way, that it's less formulaic, which is nice.
Right.
Like if there's one thing that I personally can't stand, it's the storytelling that says, first you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do. It's not a recipe. Everybody's different. So this sounds like it allows you.
And that's a great point. Is, if we all went to a movie and watched that movie, we would all come out. Even if we all love that movie, we would love it for different reasons. And I think that's kind of what our customers and prospects do. Is the customer journey. It's nice to say they go to this stage and then this stage and this stage. It doesn't happen that way. People come with so many different avenues and so many different things they're trying to do. They're different. They're in different stages of life, and so I think that it does have to be a little more Lego-ish, if you will, to allow people to tell themselves the story that you're putting out there.
And it sounds like you're almost starting with the transformation, presenting what they could look like, at least in your analogy of the movie, right? Where it shows you this is what happened. You suggest that content is no longer a tactic, but when it's used correctly, it's the voice of strategy. How should a business use content?
Yeah. Well, so it's, a couple of years ago, I was saying content is air. 10 years ago, we were saying content's king. That was the marketers. Then I moved to air because, frankly, you really can't anymore. It's very difficult to do much in the world of marketing, without content. And that's even if your transactions are done right across the desk. People start their journey, they research, they need sales materials. It's all really content, video, email, social posting. If we all put that in the bucket of content, then you pretty quickly come to realize that you can't move the needle much without a focus on content. But unfortunately, what that's done for a lot of people is just, opened up the dump truck. It's like, it's just, okay, we got to have content. Let's just go pay people to write a bunch of content. And what I'm trying to get people to do is say, look, you can actually do less if you have a strategic approach to it. So when we develop what problem we solve or what our core point of difference is, a lot of our content focus needs to be on telling that story, expanding that story, understanding that people need to hear different things in know and in like and in trust and in try and in buy and repeat and refer. They need different content because they have different questions and different objectives as they move through those stages. And so if we just build that framework for our content, as opposed to just saying, well, it's Monday, I got to blog again, it's going to be much more effective for us. And so in that point of view, it becomes the voice of telling strategy. Strategy, it's not enough to have a clever saying that becomes your core message and goes on the, above the fold on your website and goes on your business cards. You want to take the fact that you develop that core strategy and really build content and story around it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And can I ask one more question?
I don't know, Ian. Are you out of your question tokens there? Or
yeah, I might be actually, but if the panel cuts me off, I know I am. One of the things that comes to mind is that what we found as certified duct tape marketing consultants is that often people that come to us, they're already sold on the idea of strategy first, or they think they need that. But once they get into it, they're like, I can't do all this. It's too complicated. When I saw that you were bringing out this book, and as we've talked more, the one question that occurs to me as a marketing consultant and for my clients and prospects is, once they read this, is it the type of book that kind of is guide enough that they won't need help from a consultant? Or does it kind of get them so far and then they're like, I need help. This is too many pieces again, but it gives me the structure to understand what we're doing.
I mean, I suppose there will be the occasional superhuman freak that can read this book and will actually do what's in it. But that will be such a small number that I think there will always need somebody who, let's face it, an outside perspective is valuable. Accountability is valuable, because that's the biggest challenge they'll have, is nobody's knocking on their door saying, did we do this? Did we move this forward? So, at the very least, those are going to be components. But also, as we know, there are a lot of tactical things in this that they shouldn't do. You can't abdicate strategy, but you should, as a business owner, be delegating a great deal of what is done in the name of marketing for your business once you have a plan and once you have confidence in somebody who's actually going to be able to deliver on that plan. So I think that I think that, as I said, there may be some people that take this and run with it, but I think the real goal of this as a marketing consultant would be that somebody understand this enough to actually be a better buyer of your services.
That's awesome. And nice to know that there's still some job stability for, the people on this panel. Thanks, John.
You guys are all so brilliant. I can't imagine that there won't be, there's a continuous stream of folks knocking on your doors. Partly because the need for what we do is so huge as well, though.
Yeah. Well, and we're in a period of transformation, just in terms of the way people are thinking about executing their business, the way people are now buying, and they're buying differently. And it's really, it sounds to me like this is a very timely book. It's not about COVID, but we are in a situation where there is transformation in the way that we're thinking about buying, and the way that we need to deliver products and services differently than maybe we ever have before.
Yeah, and I think who knows when the window will close, but I think we're in a very wide open window now where people are considering change like never before, because of what kind of happened over the last year. So I think you've got a lot of opportunity right now to explore some new avenues and to innovate in the way that you're delivering what you're delivering. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that that's a great opportunity for many businesses, and if they're smart, they're going to seize the opportunity. Unfortunately, I think a lot of businesses, they're either so stressed, because of what's been happening, or they're so challenged because they're so busy, that, we really need to find a way to help them leverage, the great ideas and concepts that you're putting forward with this book.
Well, and some of what you can do with your marketing skills is helping find people too.
Yep.
I mean, that's the new problem is especially skilled labor shortages.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just open it up to the panel and let you guys see if you have any other questions for John.
Yeah, if I can jump in here, something you said a little bit earlier, Ken, and Ian's question, and about the marketing funnel being kind of limiting. And the good thing is it's a good way to conceptualize and visualize that customer journey. But in the real world, it's a convoluted mess. And do you think that has gotten even worse now with all these different channels?
Well, I think there's no question it's gotten more complex for people. I don't think it has to be. I mean, I think that your guys' job probably could move to tell them what they don't need to do in some cases. But the reason I've picked on the marketing funnel is not because it's not an effective first half of marketing. It's just when people don't think about it as a part of a greater whole, then I think it's very limiting. And they just, once they get the order, it's like, I don't have to do anything else. And I think that's not every business, but I think a lot of people that really had that funnel mentality, that's really it. It's like, get the sale. And so to me, it's sort of short term thinking. I think also, if you think about the stages of, consideration, awareness, trial, or some of the things that have always been used, it's almost like, it's all about demand creation and demand like shoving in a way. And I think that where we are today, and why I've chosen the very specific words for the marketing hourglass and journey, is that I think it's less about creating demand and more about organizing behavior. And that's what those stages are meant to be, sort of behavioral aspects that I think we as consumers, you can use your own example, want to go through with the companies we do business with. And I think that's so it's somewhat semantics, but it's mostly just a point of view about helping a customer achieve their goals, as opposed to just trying to cram something down their throat.
One question I think I would have about directing the customer, actually directing the client, probably more, is I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I've more than once, and it's just been this year more than any other year, I don't know why, I get in with a client and it seems like, well, we have a marketing problem. And then you get in and you're like, this is sort of a marketing problem and sort of a sales problem and sort of a customer service problem and sort of a leadership problem. What kind of advice do you have when it's, regardless of whether marketing, sales, whatever we are, to use this, the tools that you have in this book to really identify these challenges sooner? Because sometimes I think the danger that happens with all of us is we get maybe 2 or 3 months into a relationship and we don't realize that, whoa, I don't think I have the tools in my toolbox right now to solve this, but I do know some people who do. Yeah. How can this book kind of help identify some of those things earlier on?
Well, I think that a concept that certainly is in this book, but is one that you guys are familiar with because I've been working on it for years. I've used time and time again, very early on, even in the frankly, I've used it a time or two in the discovery phase before somebody became a client, introducing the marketing hourglass and just kind of talking through the idea of what might go in those stages. That they have those stages. But if you think about know, like, and trust, I mean, that's marketing. Try and buy is sales. Repeat and refer is service in a lot of ways. So you can start having that kind of umbrella conversation. And depending upon, the players involved or what the business is, where the business is today, that's a very easy way to start identifying, oh, well, we never thought about that, or no, we don't have anything for that. So you start seeing the gaps, and they're always in the customer experience. I mean, they're always after the sale, or where the massive gaps are. And of course, they have nothing, in place for referral. So I think it positions you as a strategist to start start that conversation with them, and maybe, just maybe, the problem is so big that that you can't solve it. But I think that it does allow you to start interjecting yourself in the conversation that says, no matter how great our marketing is, if one's going out the back door every time one comes in the front door, we're not going to make any progress. So set the expectations, at that level before you go into an agreement.
And if you don't know where your operational gaps are, just hire a sales and marketing consultant, and they will produce so much business for you that all of a sudden your operational, gaps will suddenly appear to you. So.
Yeah, you'll just make it up on volume.
Awesome. Well, John, thanks so much.
Oh, you bet.
I'm really excited to get this book and dig more into it. Now, you have a pre-launch companion course with 6 video lessons and some worksheets on the core topics. My understanding is that that's free for anybody who pre-orders the book. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you just visit theultimatemarketingengine.com, the website for the book, you'll see something that says get the companion course. Click on that. It'll give you the instructions on, you can pre-order the book anywhere. Then you come back and there'll be a little form you can fill out, and that'll give you access to the course. And it is 6 videos, but I've also created and have a host of materials, worksheets, and things that can help people work through the book as well. So you'll get a sampling of a few of those. And so if you're listening to this before September 21st of 2021, then go pre-order the book now, and you can start consuming some of the content right away.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. And then also, how can people find out more about you, your books,
Sure.
and also the Duct Tape Marketing Consulting?
Well, you can pretty much figure out everything I've been doing for the last couple decades at ducttapemarketing.com. So it's DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, John. Look forward to seeing you in person here one of these days soon.
Gosh, don't we all?
I'm excited that you're our first repeat guest. That's pretty awesome. So thank you so much for your time, and really enjoyed it.
Well, my pleasure. Great seeing you guys.
All right.
Great seeing you.
Take care.
Bye.